Yeah, I was a senior in high school, and we didn't have smartphones or anything. It was '99, but I heard about it on the radio. We had an open campus, and so I was driving home for lunch and heard about it then, and had friends that went to Columbine and went home and turned the TV on. And at that point, it's like the 24-hour cycle of the siege and event was going on. They were still pulling people out of the building, and I'm not sure if the two shooters at that time were dead or not yet, but it was shocking for to see it on the media, but also to know people there, and really only be about 45 minutes away from where Columbine was.
It seems that every day there is news of another school shooting. To ensure student safety, despite these increasing tragedies, other schools in our area have taken action with the implementation of student resource officers, also known as SROs, security cameras, and overall increases in school security. JD, however, has been less proactive.
Well, JD is a very, I think, safe school, but so was Columbine, and so was Sandy Hook, and a lot of other places. I think that we have a safe community, and we have a good community, and there's good kids and good teachers and good parents that live around here. And but in the end, you're not always protecting, or you're not always planning for what's normal. You're planning for some abnormal issue or person.
Though the use of a student resource officer at FM has improved the sense of security at their school, our Board of Education is much more hesitant to integrate a police officer into our school, feeling that it will make a negative climate that our school does not need, according to Mr. Gasparini.
I'm a former Hornet, so I went to FM, so I know kind of the differences of when I was a student to what it would be like to teach there now. Now they have an officer who has an office in the high school, and he's there all day long. And they kind of look to him as not someone who is going to really reinforce the law, like he is an officer, but they really see him as someone who's fun, someone they can rely on. He dances with them at the football games. They just really love him, and he's at all the sporting events, but he's there, to make sure nothing happens, and I think that might add to the staff and students' comfort level, making sure they're safe.
Cops are here all the time, so it's pretty much like we have a cop in school. I mean, I don't think that we're really I think that if we were in a less safe and secure area, then I'd be more concerned about it. But gun safety is pretty is a pretty prevalent issue. I feel like that's been talked about to a lot of the students.
Having a police officer here would serve the community really well. I mean, how often are we going to have a real need for a police officer in the school? I don't know, probably not very often. Yet a police officer, he or she could provide a lot of education and opportunities and contextualization of the need for public safety. But I don't, do we have fights here that we need to have police officers or situations like that? I can't think of them very often. We, in that sense, our school is very safe.
I think it depends on the situation. There are times where maybe it would be best, depending on what's going on in the community, where we feel we would need extra security, and then other times where it's probably not necessary. I provide backup to Mrs. Breck when she answers the phone on the camera, and usually the doorbell will ring and it'll tell who's there, and then she will buzz them in. If she is away from her desk, I do the same thing using our camera here. For the most part, I think it's not too bad. There might be times where I would be a little worried because I see sometimes parents will come in with kids, or it may be a parent that hasn't signed in, or we don't know who they are, and all of a sudden they'll show up in the main office and they haven't signed in, or we don't know where they're headed to. So there could be some fixes there, I believe.
There's only one way to enter the building after a certain time, and FM is a pretty big school, so they have to do that. There's someone to buzz you in the door. You can't just open the door whenever you want, and that person sits in between two doorways. So they'll let you in one door, then they have to talk to you and print you a badge, making sure you have your ID, and then they'll let you in the actual building. They actually check. You can't just say, oh, I'm here for a meeting. They call that person and make sure that you're actually here for that meeting. So there's a lot of hoops you have to go through. You can't just show up. Even if you're a parent and you're just dropping something off for your kid, you can't walk down to the office and drop it off. They take it from you right there. They have video cameras everywhere. They have a lot of hall monitors walking around at all times, even after school. One concern for staff members here is that we have guests to our building walking in all the time, which is great because we have a lot of opportunities and we're giving our kids a lot of different experiences with guest speakers and such, but our district office is connected to our building. At FM, it's a whole separate building. So if they have to go to the district office, they park in a separate lot. It's a whole separate building within itself. Here, they sign in at the attendance office and the main office, and then they just walk through.
On November 7th, there was a presentation to staff on how to stop the bleeding during an active shooting event.
We usually have an officer come in and they talk about the lockdown drills and what you're supposed to do during those times, or just weak areas that they see in the building. We didn't really know that it was going to be a stop the bleeding kind of like practice, you know, like they're expecting something to happen, and the officer said it's not if, it's when. Direct quote from him. And I think for the staff it kind of, you know, shook us just a little bit, like, okay, this is something that this officer who sees this stuff all the time, maybe not in schools, but, you know, around, that this is something that will happen and very well can happen, and we're now being trained on how to stop bleeding, not on how to prevent something from happening. So I think it really, you know, resonated with us as a staff.
On November 16th, there was a shooting threat at our school. Suggestive graffiti in the girls' bathroom insinuated that a student planned to act violently during the school day on Friday. Several DeWitt police officers were stationed in school on Friday to assure the school was safe.
There are many loopholes in the system. Doors remain unlocked throughout the school day. We have far fewer security cameras than other schools around the area, and we lack the protection that an SRO provides. It's presumptuous to say that the incident on November 16th would have been prevented if these measures were in place. But if a great number of students aren't attending school because they feel unsafe, that's a sign that our school's protections are inadequate.
Since the incident that occurred on November 16th, there have been some noticeable changes to our school security. 2 weeks ago, we tested doors around the school to discover flaws in the system and found that this door remained unlocked from the outside. Now, however, the door's faulty lock has been replaced and we are no longer able to open this door without a key.
I think anything that we can do to take a preventative measure is something that would benefit not just the staff, but the district as a whole.
When we talked to Mr. Dowdell, he emphasized the idea that having a good community is the best form of security.
Administration is trying to better inform the school on what to do during emergency situations.
A PowerPoint was presented to all students during homeroom through the intercom on November 30th, describing the 5 main procedures that could take place during an emergency. Our high school will practice a lockdown drill on December 13th.
Even though our system isn't perfect, actions have already been taken to try and better the situation.